L-R.
If spending money like water was the answer to our country's problems, we would have no problems now.
Good evening, folks. This is Modern Comments. I am not the host, Amy. No, she'll be here in just a second. I am just your producer, Taylor. And now, here is your host, Amy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of Modern Comments Radio. As Taylor, our producer, said, I am Amy, your hostess, and I'd like to welcome to the program tonight my guests, Sean Vakeman, who you can find on Twitter at Mr. Fopow. Good evening, Sean. How are you?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. And back again, Dave, my husband, who will be joining us this evening.
Hello.
Who you cannot find on Twitter, despite my best efforts to the contrary. We are going to start tonight with a little segment we like to call Defend Your Tweet. And I am going to start with a tweet that Sean sent out about 24 hours ago. And this is what it says. I'm not exaggerating. I checked Amazon before buying fencing supplies. Fencing supplies. I need to be stopped. So I would love for you to explain the context of that tweet because it caught my interest, and I'd like to know the background.
I somehow knew it was going to be that tweet. Like I just knew it was going to be that tweet. You know, I guess you could call me being a good capitalist or a sucker. I don't know, depending on how you want to. Depending on how you want to phrase it. But, you know, Amazon does have good prices on things. And I've kind of... My co-host of my show, Tyler, let me know that there's all this stuff on Amazon and it knows on there. And in addition to that, they have this thing called one-touch ordering. So instead of, like, going through this, like, long process of putting your name and your shipping address and your credit card number, you can just do all that one time. And you can turn on this great feature called one-touch ordering, and you can just literally touch a button and stuff shows up to your door, 48 hours later. And I've started ordering everything from toilet paper off Amazon to, I checked it for fencing supplies. I don't even know how they could offer free shipping on stuff that heavy, but for some reason I still checked to see if they sell fencing supplies, and they did, but I just, I was like, okay, this is one thing I should probably get in person. So I went and got my fencing supplies in person. But yeah, like pretty soon, I mean, with the drone delivery and everything else, pretty soon I'm going to be not self-sustaining, but Amazon sustained, where I don't have to leave the house for anything. That I can order a pizza and get it delivered in. You can order groceries off Amazon. Most people don't know that. You can order groceries.
I do know that because I ordered off of Amazon, and you're all going to judge me, and you're going to think I'm weird. Something called mushy peas. There is a local grocery chain here that occasionally carries them, but they don't always have them. And I wanted some, so I went to Amazon and I bought a case of 12 cans of mushy peas, and they delivered it to my house. And I don't think I was ever happier in my life to order a canned supply off of the internet.
You don't feel guilty because you're like, oh, I got a bulk discount. I got it was good that I bought a case because I saved on shipping and I paid a little less. And I guess the moral of the tweet is that this has been progressing more and more and more. And like I said, I probably need to be stopped. Like Heather Boulware says, I probably need adult supervision. And
I saw her response, yes.
The day that you can buy cars and houses off Amazon, someone's gonna have to stop me because it's gonna all have to come from Amazon.
But you can't buy ammo from Amazon.
That's true.
That is true. But I would rather buy that in person.
Well,
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah. Now, Sean.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I know that not everybody gets involved in or not every producer gets involved in Amy's show. I hope you don't mind if I present my own defend your tweet to Sean.
Oh,
That would be fine.
To give him time to find one for me, if he hasn't already.
no, I didn't. But go ahead and go ahead and hit me with it.
Okay. Not 2.5 hours ago,
Oh, geez, great, awesome.
you tweeted, got chased by my first dog while jogging. Anyone want to guess the breed? Winner gets an RT and possibly a sexual favor.
Awesome.
I was telling the truth. Heather Bolware again got the first guess, and she got her retweet, but she didn't. She just like left it on the back burner, the whole like sexual favor thing. So I don't know. She said she wants to meet up soon and have some drinks, but that was way before the whole sexual favor thing was on the table. So I don't know if that's going to come up later.
Yeah.
Like if she's just waiting to drop that on me, like, oh, now that you're here, remember that tweet that you had to defend on Amy's show? That was so. Maybe we'll hear more about that. Maybe not. But yeah, I'm glad it wasn't a 90, 60, 70 pound dog that was chasing me. It was just a Chihuahua. And funny enough, the owner actually came running out after it, cursing at the dog, like, saying mean things like, "Get back here, you stupid something something, expletive deleted." But yeah, dogs chasing you gives you a little extra motivation when you're starting to hit the runner's wall right before you hit runner's high. And it's just a Chihuahua. It only bit my ankles a few times, and it actually did bite my ankles a few times. But I have cats, but I'm not necessarily an anti-dog person. But the sexual favor thing does have me a little worried, just because she failed to mention it. She wasn't like, haha, about this. It was just she got a retweet and then just that, like, never said anything else. So, is this the end of it? No, I'm going to hear something more about this at some point. Yeah.
Okay, well, Taylor, I do have a defend that tweet I looked up quickly. One that you sent out a couple days ago. Crap, I left the melon at Whole Foods. Tell us about the melon that you really wanted.
Yes. Okay. I had see, I knew somebody would bring that up. I actually got E. coli at the end of last week.
Oh no.
It is the reason why there was no Saturday Night Cigar Lounge.
Allegedly got E. coli.
Allegedly got employed. Yeah, you did. Yeah, well, you also didn't see me on GTA at all, did you?
No, that's true. I'm just saying, no one saw hard proof.
Okay. Yeah. So that happened, and I got. So because of that, I haven't until tonight. Tonight was the first full meal that I had in ages. And ages, I mean like since Friday.
Oh, wow.
And what I was able to eat before then was melon and smoothies. Thank you, Sean Venkman.
Mm-hmm.
And half Gatorade, half water. Thank you, Sean Venkman.
Yeah, it's an old firefighter trick.
And juice. So that is why I went to Whole Foods and I bought melon and I left it there as I walked out with my smoothie. So, and it really is good. It really is good melon.
So the next person got it, and you were just redistributing the melon. Really,
I did my best. I did my best imitation of a liberal and redistributed it. Except for that it was with money that I had though. So how am I being a liberal if I'm?
Well, you're being a bad liberal, I guess.
Okay, because I'm not redistributing somebody else's.
Right. You're halfway there.
A misguided liberal.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, Taylor. I got a tweet for you. 6 days ago, I'll get the exact date for you since we like specifics. On May the 1st, you tweeted, Heather Boulware again. I don't know. Maybe I should just let her know on Twitter. We're going to be talking about her all show or something.
Oh, Alan's already done that. So.
Oh, okay. Good. Alan's always ahead of the curve. Heather Boulware tweeted, "Random Heather fact." Hashtag random Heather fact. "I've never seen Bambi." And I take that tweet as meaning like she was possibly, it was maybe on TV, maybe it was on demand. She was about to watch it. Mm-hmm. And you just did a manual retweet and said, "The mom dies and the forest burns."
Yeah.
Do you just love crapping on people's entertainment?
At least you didn't say Old Yeller.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, I wouldn't have been able to say anything because I've never seen that film or read that book.
Wait. You've never seen Old Yeller?
No. I know how it ends. I don't want to see it.
Well, how do you know if it ends if you haven't seen it?
I've known how it ends since the first... I mean, somebody spoiled it anyway.
The episode of Friends.
So someone like you spoiled it, and now you're just continuing the circle of, what goes around comes around, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll accept that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Now it's my turn. Woohoo. So do you guys have tweets for me?
I do. You tweet. You don't get on Twitter and just say stupid stuff like I do, so it's not wasn't that easy. But I did see something that needed a little defending.
Okay.
Today, actually, earlier today, and I went back through quite a lot of your tweets. It wasn't like I was just lazy and just picked something from today. But today you tweeted, quote, "Stop being stupid, Twitter." And I was just wondering how you plan on getting Twitter to stop being stupid.
It would take a miracle. I can tell you exactly where I was and what I was doing. I was standing at the bus stop, waiting to go home, and I was trying to answer Taylor's direct message to me, and it would not load the direct messages. It would not send out tweets. The entire app just decided to take a giant, massive dump and stop working. And so finally I was able to reboot my phone and get it to kind of sort of work, and then it wouldn't send messages, direct messages. So I tweeted, "Stop being stupid, Twitter," and then it seemed to work. I also got some pretty funny responses from that one. So
yeah, I was going to say, that actually makes sense because I took it like you were complaining about all the stupid people on Twitter, which there's actually quite a lot of them.
Yeah, it would be an uphill battle to get rid of all these stupid people on Twitter, and it would probably mean 80% of Twitter went away completely if I tried to get these stupid people off of Twitter.
Right. I thought maybe you're just Michelle Obaming it, like trying to like make something happen on Twitter just by requesting it.
No, I forgot the hashtag. The hashtag would have worked so much better for that.
Yeah,
That's how we get things done now.
If only you tweeted hashtag "Stop being stupid, Twitter," everything would have just, ceased to be stupid, right?
And it would have, yep, I would have waved my hand, and with my magic wizard powers, I would have made Twitter not stupid.
Right, as soon as that tweet registered, everything would have been right. Because that's how it works, right?
That's how it works, yes.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I have one. Also from today.
Okay.
For you, Amy. Oh, my sinuses. They are saying more rain is on the way. Now, I guess the first question is, were you praising the fact that rain was coming or complaining about the fact that rain was coming?
Yes and no. I'm glad I don't have to water my garden.
Okay.
So that's always good. But no, I had a massive sinus headache when I tweeted that, and it felt like I'd gotten hit across the bridge of the nose with a baseball bat. So I was lamenting the fact that I have my own personal barometer, and when we get thunderstorms or snowstorms or anything like that, I'm usually one of the first to know about it. Like, the old lady with her arthritic joints says it's going to rain.
You're like Bill Paxton's character in Twister. You can just sense when it's coming.
I can just sense I'm exactly like Bill Paxton's character in Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the next question is why do you hate rain so much?
I don't hate rain. I'm glad that I don't have to water. We've had such a miserable winter, and last week was pretty much rain every day, and today was supposed to be 60 and sunny, and it didn't get sunny until about 5 o'clock this afternoon. So I'm pretty much sick of it. I am a t-shirts, jeans, flip-flops kind of girl, and I am so sick and tired of the icky weather that I want spring and summer to be here. Even if that means I have to go out and water, I'm tired of the rain, I'm tired of the gray, I'm tired of the overcast. I am looking forward to decent weather, and I don't feel like it's ever going to come.
Makes me very peckish, it does.
See, down here in Texas, we don't mind rain.
Yeah, but it doesn't rain. It's
refuses. Supposed to rain up here tomorrow.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, ditto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have family who lives in Texas, so I understand what the weather can be like. But in Wisconsin, winter sucked. Spring has not been very good. I'm looking forward to some decent weather, and I think it's well-deserved, not for just me, but for everybody who lives in Milwaukee who is sick and tired of winter.
Works for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're going to double back to something that Taylor kind of talked about, and that is redistributing the wealth. He was kind enough to do it with the melon he unfortunately left behind at Whole Foods. But we are going to talk about income inequality and how it's shaping up, in my opinion, to be a theme of the 2014 midterms, and probably will be a theme that we see in the 2016 presidential election. And I'm referring to a blog written by Andrew Lillico, and it's from The Telegraph, which is over in the UK, but it was an interesting enough premise that I decided to read it and run with it for tonight's show, because he talks about inequality not as something that needs to necessarily be fixed by government or a bad thing, but a driver of progress. And it got me.
It was actually a really, since, like you said, it was the UK and it's kind of a mainstream media source. So I kind of expected it to be written the way the American media would have written that, which is like, oh, this is so terrible. This is such a tragedy. If only Harry Reid could pass a bill that would fix this. And no, Andrew Lillico actually did it was a pretty good, realistic, middle of the road article. I was actually kind of surprised by it.
And that's one of the things that stood out for me. The headline was a grabber, because you typically don't see that. You typically see this is awful, this is tragic, we need to do something about this, and that usually means passing a bill that will cost somebody somewhere lots of money or time or liberty or a combination of all three. But he argues that it is a driving force. Let me see if I can find the paragraph. I cannot. I had it highlighted and now I cannot find it.
I hate it. I hate it when that happens.
Yes, but he talks about how it is one of the things that drives the progress, and he talks about the story about the fish. He says it's kind of a stretch of a metaphor, but if we were all lived on our own desert island, like Robinson Crusoe, with identical resources and skills, so we're all perfectly equal, and get our food in the form of fish from the teeming oceans, then suppose one of us works out a way to fish better, so inequality increases. Is everyone else somehow worse off? Clearly the answer is that everyone else is not worse off unless the better fisherman makes fish scarcer for them. The one person's riches do not come at others' expense. And I think the metaphor may have been a little bit broad, but I think he really hits a point, and a point that gets lost in the debate of income inequality, that by and large, the wealth that other people have doesn't come at the expense of someone else. And I think talking about that and thinking about that in the terms of, we just had the vote on the minimum wage bill, which didn't go anywhere. The constant harping of the rich need to pay their fair share, and income inequality is a problem in the United States. It stood out to me as something that people need to be saying more of, and a way to communicate the issue of income inequality that we're not seeing here in America.
Right. Kids these days are taught, if someone's getting rich, then it's coming off your back, or it's coming out of your pocket. That someone's taking money that would have been yours if only this rich person wasn't stealing it all for themselves. And you see it in movies, kind of like worked into storyline through metaphors also sometimes, but sometimes a little bit more obviously. And I guarantee you, if you were to survey 100 kids and you were to say, if you're talking about one person being a millionaire and one person working at McDonald's, is the millionaire taking money out of the pocket of the person earning minimum wage at McDonald's somehow? And they would all say yes. I guarantee you 98 out of 100 would say yes, that's how it works. It's because they don't know how it works. But the truth is, like this metaphor, I actually thought it was a pretty good metaphor. It's probably better than something I would have been able to come up with. But it speaks to a truth that just because someone is better off doesn't mean that someone is necessarily worse off. Now, with socialism, that's not necessarily true, because in socialism, you can literally be taxing someone that has more money and giving it to someone who has less. So therefore, for someone to make money, quote, make money, they didn't really make it, but to get money, I guess would be the way to phrase it, then that actually could come off the back of someone else or come out of the pocket of someone else. But in a true free market society, that the reverse isn't necessarily true, that just because someone's rich, someone else has to be poor. And I was, when you told me that we were doing this topic, I actually thought back to a time when I was in elementary school. And I can't remember if it was a teacher that gave us this thought experiment, or it was like my mom or my dad that gave me this thought experiment. But they said, and I'm guessing it was in regard to my terrible report card, but they said, yeah, they said, well, would it be better if everyone just made a C? And I'm pretty sure I was looking at a D or something like that. So I was like, well, yeah, if I could just do nothing and make a C in everything, then yeah, that would be cool with me. And I remember that sounded like a great idea. And it sounded like a great idea to me because I was unexperienced, I was probably stupid, and I was young and impressionable, and I was lazy. I mean, there's not a better word for it. I was lazy. That's why it sounded so awesome. And now I think back on that, and I'm like, whoa, like, what was I thinking? But I was thinking that in elementary school, and I still think a lot of kids actually think that all the way through college sometimes. And look, the problem is that nothing is ever going to be fair. I know that politicians always make it sound like, oh, if we just do this differently, if we just do this program, fund this, do that, then fairness, we're going to have fairness and equality and this, that, and the truth is that in the world we live in today, that it is not possible. It is fundamentally not possible for things to be fair. Fairness is an illusion. Fairness is a lie. Fairness is a Santa Claus that politicians sell us to make us try to feel better about whatever that is that they want to do. Nothing is ever going to be fair. It's not physically possible. Even if we all have the same amount of money, then people are going to go buy a car and a piece of property. And someone's going to come out the next day and say, oh, I wanted that car, or I wanted that piece of property. So guess what? It's still not fair. And it's dangerous to always make it sound like, oh, we're this close to fairness. We're this close to everything being equal. When in reality, no, we're not, A, and B, it's impossible for things to be fair. And my last point on this subject, before I'll turn it over to y'all, is just that, do you ever notice the people who harp about income inequality and fairness and all this, and even some parts of social justice, they kind of always keep it like it's a domestic policy. Like they make McDonald's workers sound like they are the most griefed and taken advantage of people in the in the entire world. But the truth is that there's not suicide nets around McDonald's, but there is in factories in China. And let's just assume that they actually believe that they can change the world and make everything fair. That's fine. Why start with a fast food restaurant in America when you have people killing themselves that make $3 a day or something, like $3 a week? They make such a pathetically small amount of money that suicide sounds like a good idea. But yet, but all they ever talk about is fast food workers. And I saw Think Progress talking about it today, that the largest fast food strike is set to happen. And it's like, well, if that's what you actually believe, there's a lot worse examples of income inequality than in America. And I guess I don't get it.
Well, one of the ironic things about it, or paradoxical things, is that the whole drive towards fairness and equality actually creates more inequality. I mean, if you have a $10.10 minimum wage, originally the minimum wage or entry-level wages are for people like high schoolers, college kids, going into their first jobs, learning how to work and earning some extra money. It's not meant to be a living wage. It never was. And you're not supposed to be stuck in that job forever unless you're going to become, go into management and go into other things in the fast food business. But it's not meant. When I took on my job at public library, my first job was actually at McDonald's. I lasted 3 whole weeks there, never got beyond fries. But when I took on those jobs in high school and in college, it wasn't meant to support a household. It was meant to get a little extra pocket money and to support dates and going out to dinner and going out with my friends and save a little extra money for stuff. It wasn't meant to support a household and children.
No, but part of the thing about this debate, especially about the minimum wage, is this mentality, and I don't believe anybody's ever said it outright, but it's always implied and sort of emphatically implied that we need a minimum wage, we need a living wage for people who flip burgers at McDonald's, and I'm not knocking them, but you're right, it's an entry-level job. But the mentality of the people who support this seems to be, you flip burgers at McDonald's, that's all you're going to do for the rest of your life. That's why you need a minimum wage. And even if you do the math, at $10.10 per hour, working a 40-hour week, and 40-hour week jobs are becoming the exception and not the rule, thanks to things like Obamacare, you're still only coming in at $21,800 a year, which, if you look at the federal poverty guidelines for 2014, is still under the federal poverty guidelines for a family of 4. So even with this wage, it's not a family-supporting job.
And isn't it a little insulting that the people who push, like you said, who push for this, living wage, they always make it sound like that's the most money these people are ever going to earn. Like you said, like they're going to make a career out of being a cashier at McDonald's, and they're never going to progress to assistant manager or night shift manager or general manager. Like that's all they're ever going to do. Isn't that like a giant middle finger to those people?
It's the soft bigotry of low expectations that kind of drives a lot of their policies. And the other thing the other two things I don't seem to understand is that income and that is fluid. Unless you are born into a tremendous amount of wealth and you don't blow it all, you're going to have ups and downs. Through my working life, I started at minimum wage. I got better jobs. I lost better jobs. The last job I had before my current position, I was making $9 an hour answering telephone calls in a call center. I hated that job with every fiber of my being, but it was a job that paid the bills, and it was a stepping stone. Now, if you told me that they would pay me $15 an hour to do that, a living wage, no way in hell would I do that for the rest of my life. I did work at McDonald's for a little while when I was in high school. I hated it. I worked at Walgreens. I worked in retail. I wouldn't go back to those jobs unless I absolutely had to, but they were not jobs that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. They were the pocket money. They were the buying my books for the next semester of college, going out with my friends on a Saturday night. These were not jobs that I was meant to raise 3 kids on this income that I was making. And I've moved up overall on average as I've gotten further along in my career. doing various things. I'm making more now than I ever did before. I wasn't stuck in that job. I went to school. I did what I needed to do. I worked my butt off to try and get where I am today.
Let me ask you this:
Mhm.
when you were making the least money you ever made at that first or second job, did it serve as a motivator to go out there and get a better job and get more skilled?
Yes,
Be-
because go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say because it did for me too. I started out. My first job was while I was 16 years old. I was bagging groceries at the grocery store next to my high school for $5.15 an hour. So after 4 hours of bagging groceries and rounding up carts out of the parking lot in 105-degree weather, I didn't even have $20 to my name because taxes still had to come from that. And you can say that that's inhumane, whatever. I didn't think it was. I agreed. I actually went out of my way to apply for that job. It wasn't like I was tasked with doing that, but like you said, Amy, I said, oh man, I've got to do better for myself. I've got to get skilled, and this is not what I want to be doing. So it kind of made me do some like self-inflection, and I'm like, you know what I really enjoy? Driving. So I got, I worked there long enough to get a little bit of a reference, and I left on good terms. I didn't just, up and quit or stop showing up. And then I got my first driving job. I didn't make much more, so I applied, once I had 6 months or a year of driving experience, I went and got another driving job, which paid considerably more. And I think that there's an element that kind of like, yeah, if you start out making $10 an hour, sure, it's still possible to be motivated to go better yourself and do other things, but it seems like that was just a huge like kick in the butt that I needed. Like, hey, you need to finish high school because this sucks. And when you finish high school, you need to start playing the job market field because this sucks. And you need to get more skills and get more networking connections and do better for yourself because this sucks. And when you're trying to make, it's like I think I saw a proposal for $15 or $20 an hour minimum wage in Seattle. That is absolutely ridiculous. That is going to create more problems than it solves.
Well, one thing, if you don't mind me cutting in.
I mind. I mind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. See if I'm on Grand Theft Auto this weekend.
Mm.
The next time you see a bounty, just see who ends up claiming it.
Mm.
It was funny. The first job I got was $6.10 an hour. Then I got a 3-cent raise, and
3 cents an hour.
Yeah, I went from $6.10 to $6.13.
Wow.
And or it was 6 to $6.10. It was something like that.
I hope that wasn't a performance-based increase.
No. No, not to my knowledge. But I remember that eventually I had another job. It was actually kind of a dream job. I was living in Washington, D.C., enjoying my time there, but I was working overnights. I was working part-time overnights. And I said, which is impossible to do in Washington, D.C. and survive. And I said to my bosses, hey, how can I advance with this company? And they said, the only way you're going to advance is if you get your college degree. So you know what I did the next day? I made sure I got accepted at the college that I used to go to, and went back to and put in my 2 weeks at that job, and went back to work, went back to work at school.
So your low wage served as a motivator to get more education.
Exactly.
Which in turn benefited you.
Yeah, and I think the problem is that the people who say, "Oh, we want folks to have a living wage," the only reason why they say that is they just want to keep them where I think in the back of their minds, some of them just want to keep them where they are.
Oh, I definitely think that that's part of the motivation for it. I mean,
Some
they have
of them.
some of them. Some of them have a vested interest in keeping that voter block, because then down the road this can be an issue again. You know, you're not making enough money, so let's raise the minimum wage again. And my own personal opinion is if you said it was Seattle, they want to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, go ahead and do it. I think Connecticut did, in fact, raise the minimum wage. Go ahead and do it, because then the rest of the country can see what an absolute foobar that is going to be. Mm-hmm. Because part of the thing that they being the people who support a minimum wage increase don't understand is that businesses aren't hoarding cash. There isn't like this big, Scrooge McDuck safe where they go and swim in money every night, and they're just not paying their employees this money. They have a budget, and they have a certain amount of money that they can allot for paying their workers. And if they're going to pay 8 workers $10 an hour, instead of paying, 10 workers $8 an hour, $7 an hour, they're going to do that. People are going to lose their jobs, and it is going to be a problem. And let's look at Seattle, let's look at Connecticut and see what happens to them before we do this on a national scale, because it's going to be a disaster. And the CBO was saying that hiking the minimum wage could cost $500,000 jobs.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to venture a guess that that's probably a conservative estimate, given all of the other things that are being put on business in terms of Obamacare and corporate tax rates and all of that. I'm guessing that's a conservative estimate.
The funny thing is that if you actually Google, I just blanked out on if it was actually London or Paris. But if you actually Google image search McDonald's ordering, and it's either Paris or London.
I think it's Paris.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's Paris. They have, instead of, you walk in and there's, like I would say the average U.S. McDonald's has probably, 3 or 4 people that take orders at a given time. And then there's like 1 or 2 people that work the drive-through. And then there's, a couple cooks on top of that and the manager, say. In Paris, you walk in there and what you see is 4 or 5 automated ordering machines. And this picture, which was just taken, you walk in the door and this dude took a picture of McDonald's, you can't even see a person in the picture. So I'm guessing the drive-thru is automated, if there even is a drive-thru. It might not be. The one I went to in Paris didn't even have a drive-thru. Mm-hmm. So there's one job gone right there before you even start automating everything. And so there, this restaurant probably had 2 people working at it, 2 chefs, and maybe a manager. And they don't realize that the technology is there. This is not 1965 where it's like, oh, well, what are we going to have a computer do all this stuff? Yeah, you can. You can. They're called automated teller machines, and they replaced bankers. I'm pretty sure they can replace fast food workers too.
Exactly. And I don't see the minimum wage bill passing right now because okay.
Sorry, go ahead and finish. We actually have a caller.
We have a caller. Excellent.
I have a caller.
Okay, who is the caller?
Hello, Alaskan, otherwise known as Boyd McPhail. How are you, sir?
Hello?
Alaskan.
Oh, sorry. I muted my mic just so I wouldn't blast into everybody. Sorry about that. How's everybody?
Good. How are you?
Oh, not bad.
Hello.
I just wanted to get in on this. There's a very simple formula on the minimum wage. It ain't going to do nothing because all it's going to do, because the employers aren't going to pay those extra dollars. It's the customers that are going to pay those extra dollars. It just means the price of everything is going to go up.
Exactly. And then what's going to happen is the people who are now making $10.10 an hour are going to be paying more for the goods and services that they buy. And someone somewhere said that McDonald's would have to raise the price of their burgers by a few cents. But when you are an adult and when you have a budget like I have a budget, you realize that the 5 cents here, the 7 cents here, the $2 here, the $2 there, that adds up. And it adds up pretty damn quickly. And before you know it, the things that you thought you could afford, no, you can't afford because the price of everything keeps going up. I mean, we have 3 children. Our food budget is anywhere between $200 and $300 a pay period. So not even a week, a pay period. And there are times when it's like a pound of bacon is almost $7. A gallon of milk is almost $4. If they raise the minimum wage, all of that is going to go up. And just on top of general inflation because of the issues with the dollar, it's just going to keep going up. So your raise, quote unquote, is going to get eaten up not only by more taxes, but by the cost of everything going up because your employer has to pay more.
Well, yeah,
has to charge more.
And if we're doing it for the people, and you get replaced by an automated ordering system, or just you get replaced by a computer in some degree. I'm sure you mentioned call centers. I've worked in one too, and there used to be level 1 people who would people see what's good. And okay, you have a concern. Let me escalate that. Now a lot of level 1 tech support and level 1 I guess customer service and call centers is automated. So they make it sound like, oh, we're going to do $15 an hour for the people, for the little guy. Well, how much is the little guy going to like it when he goes from, or she goes from making, I don't know, $8, $9 an hour to making 0 because they got replaced by a computer?
Oh, but they're making $15.
But they got replaced by a computer, and the 2 cooks that are there might make $15 an hour, or the 1 cook, but the 4 or 5 or 6 other people, they just got screwed. They're making 0 now.
Yeah. And $8 an hour, in my opinion, is better than making 0. But I'm not a politician.
8 is greater than 0. I think even Joe Biden can understand that. I would think. I would hope.
Yeah. I'll be generous and say yes this evening.
Yeah,
well, that's okay for them because then they're on the government. They're taking unemployment on the government dole then.
Yeah, and then we have to extend unemployment for what is it now? 99 weeks, and they want to make it even more. Or something. It's something ridiculously high, like 99 weeks, and they want to extend it even more. So it's basically another form of welfare. And I'm not saying we've both been in a position where we've needed to use it, but we both haven't been unemployed for 99 weeks. We've looked and we were lucky enough to find jobs after we've lost previous jobs. So are you still on the line with us, Galaskin?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
The other thing about it is, okay, if you're out there working, whether you're at minimum wage or the new minimum wage, you're still going to be earning less money than if you went on full welfare. I mean, you said what, $21,000 a year.
Yeah.
Well, a full welfare recipient who's getting into all of it is earning around $64,000 a year.
And that's more than
depending
I
on
make.
the place, but yeah.
Yeah, that's more than I make, and I have a master's degree. And
Yeah.
I get up every day. I work 40 hours a week. 5 days a week, 52 weeks out of the year. With I get vacation time, obviously, but they make more than I do. 50% more than I do.
Yeah, where are all these fairness people when we're talking about that you paid out of pocket for schooling and then you work every day, and yet someone else who maybe never went to school and maybe never worked a day of their life gets paid more than you? Like, where's the fairness in that? Fairness, protesters.
Yeah, why do I have to get up every day and go to work when I would give a kidney to be able to be a stay-at-home mom to my 3 kids, but I have to work because we have bills to pay.
And that's one of the other things that the whole thing towards fairness and equality is killed off, is the ability for one person in a household to be the breadwinner. I see what my grandparents were able to do, and my dad. I'm in my 40s, by the way, just a little personal thing, but my father was able to do on a single income, and it's just heartbreaking that you're not able to do that anymore.
No, because a variety of policies have made it impossible for somebody to earn one income and support a family in any way that's meaningful. Unless you're willing to work 2 jobs, it's almost impossible to support a family on one person's income unless you have like a doctor, a lawyer, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So,
Well, it's not impossible to do it, but sure makes it tough.
sure, tough, almost impossible. Nothing is completely, well, very few things are completely impossible, but some things are, and they're made more difficult by the policies that are going on. And speaking of policies, one of the other things that we were going to look into talking about tonight is a plan by the Democrats to kind of, I would call it, sidestep the Supreme Court's ruling on Citizens United versus the FEC in their proposal to bring forth a constitutional amendment to overturn that Supreme Court decision that was made in Citizens United versus FEC. And this is something else that I wanted to talk about because it goes in conjunction with another article that I read about an issue with free speech. The Democrats were not happy when the Citizens United ruling came down. And for those of you who don't know the Citizens United, I'm going to give you a very brief background on it. And the Supreme Court basically said the First Amendment prohibits the government from restricting political independent expenditures by corporations, associations, or labor unions. It's tied into that McCain-Feingold law that kind of limited how organizations could spend money in context of political ads. And Citizens United went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled in their favor, and the Democrats were not happy about this so-called money in politics. So now they're proposing a constitutional amendment to change that ruling, overturn that ruling, and I need to find out exactly what the details were, so I can articulate this correctly. Let me see here. Give me just a moment. Okay.
They're just ticked because somebody else was doing it better than they did.
Yeah, that's part of it. But basically what they're looking to do is go through, amend the Constitution to rein in its free speech protections, is ultimately what they're going to do. And Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer is kind of leading this charge. And it's interesting. First of all, I'm really thrilled that they actually are trying to go through the constitutional amendment process rather than strong arm or force something through that would probably end up at the Supreme Court and probably get overturned anyway. And this amendment has virtually no chance of passing because it needs 2/3 support from both chambers of Congress and ratification from 3/4 of the states. And that's never going to happen, at least not in this point in time. But it also ties in with another piece that I read from the Examiner. Democrat Senator Ed Markey from Massachusetts wants he proposed the Hate Crime Reporting Act of 2014, which would require the National Telecommunication and Information Administration to submit a report on the use of telecommunications, which is pretty much anything we use to communicate, internet, phones, radio, television, to advocate whether or not they advocate and encourage violent acts and the commission of crimes of hate. The kicker with this is that they want this bill and this Hate Crimes Reporting Act to have solutions to this spreading of hate that are in line with the First Amendment. And the reason I bring both of these topics up is because every so often, whether it's the constitutional amendment, the fairness doctrine, or this proposal for the Hate Crime Reporting Act, there's stuff that pops up that looks to limit the First Amendment and our rights under the First Amendment. And every time it comes up, it needs to be called out, it needs to be exposed, it needs to be shot down in flames as quickly as possible so that they, being the people who propose this legislation, don't get any ideas about what they're going to try and get away with. Because it's very clear that if they don't like the Supreme Court ruling in Citizens United, they're going to try and sidestep that by amending the Constitution to change free speech protections.
And even then, there's no guarantee that they can do that legally. That's a very gray area. I don't think it's happened before in the U.S. Where they've had a constitutional amendment overturn a Supreme Court decision.
I think this is funny as hell because the first thing that popped into my mind when you're like, oh, boogeyman, hate speech. If you commit hate speech, you're going to go to jail. Okay, so most of MSNBC is going to be in jail. They talked about crapping in Sarah Palin's mouth, if my memory serves me correctly. I can't remember the last time I heard a Fox News host or a FTR radio host or a Vigilant Liberty radio host say anything like that. So I thought that was a little ironic. But this is what Democrats do, and what I mean by that is that when it comes to guns, right? They probably really only want to take the guns away from some people that they deem, unfit or however they parse it. But their plan is always like, oh, let's take everyone's guns away to take the guns away from the people that we want to take the guns away from. And the rest of the people, screw you.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about free speech, and it kind of seems like it's the same thing. It's kind of like, well, they probably don't like the Koch brothers' influence or something like that. So they're going to change the whole system and screw over everyone's rights just to get at, the Koch brothers because they don't agree with the Koch brothers or they don't like how they do business or something like that. But this has a long... This is what Democrats do, and this is the one point I want to drive home before I stop. That this is what they do. That they always make it sound like they're doing the fair thing or the right thing or what needs to be done. But the truth is they're just self-serving. And what I mean by that is in 2004, if people who've been involved in politics for some times, if their memory served them correctly, in 2004 the Democrats worked overtime to strip then Governor Romney of the power to appoint a replacement senator, because they knew he'd appoint a Republican. And then, go figure, just a few years later, whenever there's a Democrat governor in office, and they change the laws that you have to have a special election, all of a sudden, like, holy crap, what are the odds? Now they fight for the chance for the governor to just appoint someone, and they ended up having a special session election anyway. But that was because they lost their push to just change the rules again to whatever suits them. So if you're a moderate voter, if you're an independent voter, and you're questioning motivations of both parties, ask yourself who is just completely bending the rules every chance they get, just so they can self-serve. And really, like, does it really make sense that they would completely pull a 180 on the exact same issue within a few years because it didn't serve them the first time and then it serves them this time? I mean, they're literally talking about screwing over everyone's future for just a small political victory today, and that should bother everybody.
Well, with 2 points on it, with the whole thing with finance or changing the rules, it means to an end, because to them, Koch brothers are bad, but George Soros is good. It's not a matter of that somebody that everybody is doing it; it's who's doing it, and if somebody else is doing it, that's bad because only they can get away with it. Only because their intentions are pure and good, they can do whatever the heck they want. As far as what the senator from Massachusetts wants to do, as far as hate speech, and you mentioned about MSNBC saying vile things about Sarah Palin. You know what the classic definition of hate speech is? Anytime a liberal disagrees with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
that's the definition of hate speech.
And the way this bill was written, or that this proposal by Senator, I guess it was Ed Markey of Massachusetts. Markey, yeah. The way it was written, people are already complaining that it's really vague, and it really leaves a lot left up to, I don't even know if interpretations are right. It just to imagination. That, I mean, these days, if you're waving an American flag or you're wearing an American flag T-shirt on the wrong day, which might have been 2 days ago, that's racist hate speech. Mm-hmm. So this is really, really close to them just, having free reins to throw whoever in jail or charge whoever they want with, boogeyman hate speech, and you're you're inciting hate speech or inciting a riot, and they're going to have a green light to do this to whoever they want because the definition is vaguer than Bill Clinton's sexual conquest history.
Yeah, well, it says in the bill, which is 3 pages long, which in and of itself is stunning to me, that a government could come up with a bill that's less than 1,000 pages. But it says that
we have one-page bills here in Texas all the time.
For me, it's just after the thousands of pages that is the debacle known as Obamacare, that somebody can actually write legislation that's in 3 pages is unbelievable. But it defers to the Hate Crime Statistics Act for its definition of what a hate crime is, and that deals with crimes that are committed because of the victim's race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, or ethnicity. But like Dave said, it would basically be whatever offended the liberals, whatever offended the left. So if I would get on the radio and say that I support traditional marriage, that would be hate speech. Even if I didn't say anything derogatory about gays and homosexuals, it would be considered hate speech. But if we get on the radio and said that Sarah Palin should be, hung from the highest tree in Alaska, they would be totally fine with that, because that's not hate speech. That's political discourse or dialogue.
If you want a practical example of how that works, look to the north of the border in Canada. Since they wrote their Charter of Rights and Freedoms on how that's interpreted, you say anything bad about homosexuality, even to the point of saying, you condemn homosexual acts but not individual, that's still hate speech. But you get a bunch of radical feminists knocking over a cathedral or disrupting worship at a cathedral, that's considered dialogue.
Yeah, and so it is hypocrisy, and it is a means to the end for them. And every time something like this comes up, even though they said that constitutional amendment has no chance of passing, and there's no way in hell that Markey's bill in Massachusetts, even though it says the solutions to the Hate Crimes Reporting Act have to be under the umbrella of the First Amendment, there's no way in hell that bill is constitutional, no way that it would stand up in a reasonable court of law. Every time something like this comes up, it has to be called out on the carpet, and it has to be beaten back, because that's the only way that this stuff is never going to come into fruition. So,
ding, 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 ding.
Yep, agreed.
You said the magic words there.
Excellent. Well, I would like...
Court of law.
Yes, exactly. I would like to take a moment to thank Boyd, our caller, the Alaskan, who was nice enough to call in. Thank you for calling in. And if you stick around after the show, you can catch The Right War with my wonderful producer, Taylor. Fridays, we have the Conservative or Kink-Servative Feminist Show. Saturdays is Saturday Night Cigar Lounge. Sundays is Next. Mondays is Their Finest Hour with Alan Bordius. And Tuesdays, we have the Roundtable of Extreme Liberty. I want to take a moment to thank Sean Vankman, my guest. Sean, where can we find you online?
At Mr. Fopow on Twitter, and we're going to announce the new home for my show soon. But yeah, on Twitter at Mr. Fopow. And thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed this hour. It was a good talk.
You're very welcome. And I am Amy. You can find me on Twitter at Modern Comments. And that is the show for the evening. Tune in again next week at 9 Central for Modern Comments Radio. Thank you very much.
This show is copyright by VLR Media. All opinions of panelists and guests are their own and may not reflect the opinion of VLR Media, the host, or anyone else.